brewing and unfolding tragedy in Gaza, potential consequences of Hezbollah's involvement, with no signs of cessation of hostilities or ceasefire in the offing, with hospitals running out of electricity and water. War against Hezbollah could lead to civil strife in Lebanon, compounding the country's economic and political crises. Despite Israel's continuing bombardment, the Rafah border crossing with Egypt may reopen to allow the flow of essential supplies. This war must not expand to the region, because then it would involve the world. This conflict's human toll is severe. Hello and welcome to New Wave Global. I'm back with the latest on the brewing and unfolding tragedy in Gaza and the Israel-Gaza conflict that continues to capture global attention and has raised questions about the potential consequences of Hezbollah's involvement, the Russian ceasefire resolution that was vetoed by the United Kingdom and the US, President Biden's high-stakes Israel visit amid escalating conflict, and the humanitarian crisis, which obviously every thinking and sensitive person across the globe is concerned. And not to mention that the US Secretary of State Blinken's tour of the Gulf, where he was kept waiting by the Saudi authorities for a meeting with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So what is the current situation? It is certainly very worrying and alarming, with no signs of cessation of hostilities or ceasefire in the offing. The Guardian, which is a UK-based paper, has reported that the Palestinian death toll in Gaza has risen to over 2,800, with thousands injured. Hamas fired a barrage of missiles at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, resulting in warnings of a long war from the Israeli defense minister. The US Secretary of State Blinken reiterated American support for Israel. The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak noted the death of 6 Britons and 10 missing after a Hamas attack on Israel. These statements, of course, have been coming, and certainly the allies of Israel are concerned about the security of the country. But you know what is happening in response in Gaza, which and other Palestinian territories, is extremely worrying. The Guardian's coverage of the Israel-Gaza conflict maintains a somewhat neutral and factual tone, primarily delivering updates on the situation. The focus has been on reporting the rising death toll and the missile attacks, the exchange attacks, and the narrative also includes statements from Israeli and the US officials, thereby trying to bring a balanced perspective on the ongoing developments. The Guardian, of course, is a reliable paper and always tries to be an alternative to the mainstream media, which unfortunately has not only been regurgitating a lot of racist commentary on the Palestinians and the Palestinian issue, but also wittingly or unwittingly, promoting hate, and that is a concern. Democracy Now!, an independent outlet led by Amy Goodman here in New York, US, provides a grim picture of the situation in Gaza, with hospitals running out of electricity and water, leading to an escalating humanitarian catastrophe. The report features testimonies from Gazans experiencing severe shortages and deadly attacks, illustrating the dire circumstances. Democracy Now! Has in the past and is now also bringing an empathetic and emotional tone to its coverage. The narrative underscores the severe human suffering and dire conditions faced by the people of Gaza. It places a strong emphasis on the humanitarian aspects of the conflict, showcasing testimonies and personal accounts from the Gazan residents to bring a human dimension to the news. And therefore, Democracy Now! Is doing a great job of making the public aware of the plight of people who are trapped in Gaza, and calls for international community's attention to the humanitarian crises. Al Jazeera, the Gulf-based outlet, focuses on the readiness of Lebanon's Hezbollah to join the conflict, highlighting their military capabilities, increased fighters, missile stockpiles, and warns of a potential regional escalation and the devastating impact on Lebanon. And it discusses, it has also highlighted the risk of a wider conflict involving Hezbollah due to the atrocities in Gaza, raising concerns about Iran's involvement. The article in Al Jazeera today has also pointed out that a war against Hezbollah could lead to civil strife in Lebanon, compounding the country's economic and political crises. The New York Times, the largest newspaper, most well-read, has also reported that efforts to secure safe passage for foreign passport holders out of Gaza are ongoing, while the majority of Enclave's population faces worsening conditions and a humanitarian crisis. Despite Israel's continuing bombardment, the Rafah border crossing with Egypt may reopen to allow the flow of essential supplies. Concerns do persist about conflict spreading as Israel evacuates people near the Lebanon border due to the clashes with Hezbollah. The New York Times also highlights and underscores the urgency and the need for diplomacy in its coverage, calling for an immediate action to address the tragic crises brewing in Gaza. And of course, everybody's concerned that this war must not expand to the region, because then it would involve the world. I think the New York Times approach is pretty practical and diplomatic, and I was personally quite pleased to see that they were giving due attention to some of the public interest issues that journalists should be doing. A few key points have emerged after reading so many papers and following social media. This conflict's human toll is severe, with high Palestinian casualties in Gaza and the potential for greater devastation, God forbid. And the humanitarian crisis, above all, is deepening, with severe shortages of essential supplies and displacement of civilians. And, the important part here is that the regional actors like Iran and other countries must not enter the fray, and there should be a diplomatic effort led by the international community to put an end to this conflict, or at least reduce its impact. There has to be a ceasefire. The reports that I've been looking at also underscore the urgency of finding a diplomatic solution. And that is what I have also been saying and tweeting about. The international community's response so far, unfortunately, is not that clear and not that assertive. And I think that is where the role of United Nations, if it has any value left as a organization to maintain peace and prevent further escalation, then the UN has to step in, and the Security Council has a role. I will be back with more updates. Unfortunately, this is so tragic and this is so sad what is happening, but hope to see you tomorrow. Goodbye.